Chuck Salvo.
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you.
Good to meet you.
I picked you out of 200 names
Okay.
because of your title.
All right.
Chief Happiness Architect.
Pretty cool, huh?
I'm like, oh, I want to talk to this guy. Like, I want to know how to be happier. And I've studied happiness for many, many years, and I was always disappointed that the idea of happiness wasn't more on the bestseller list consistently. It wasn't something people sought out, because I always thought, why are we doing all this work? Why are we raising these kids? Why are we working 18 hours a day if not ultimately to be happy? And yet there's an entire field of almost 20, 30 years of research now on happiness, on dopamine, but not many people know.
Right.
I mean, my inner circle knows, maybe people who read my newsletters, but that's why I wanted to talk to you, because you've been immersed in the happiness culture. And tell us about your experience with Disney and why you decided to title yourself and even build a company around happiness.
Well, 15 years with Disney. I actually was with Disney Institute, and we had clients come to us all the time and say, hey, we just want you to make our people happy. And we'd say, well, that's good. Now we need you to help your employees be happier. And they'd say, no, you don't understand. We just want to make our people happy. And so we were able to really focus in on, so my title, Chief Happiness Architect, everybody forgets the architect part.
Right.
Because really a culture needs to be created intentionally. So that's what I did for 15 years with Disney Institute. And now, as I left, I always wanted to be a little bit more affordable than Disney was. Clients would say, hey, can you come and help me? And
so the Disney Institute is a consulting arm of Disney?
Yeah, Disney Institute formed as the outward-facing arm of Disney University, if you will. So, so years ago, companies would come and say, hey, help us, and then we would say, no way, it's proprietary.
So just like McDonald's University, if you buy a franchise, they put everyone through this training program, so they have consistency as a franchise owner.
Correct.
There are no franchises at Disney, so you would never get to Disney University unless you were an employee.
Correct.
Either executive level, C-suite, or just working around the park.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
so you're going to spill all the beans, all the secrets
whatever
of Disney?
whatever you want, Bart. Absolutely.
So do you know a lot about Disney, Roy Disney, and those brothers, like how they did their creative process?
Absolutely.
Is their vision still being implemented?
Sadly, I'd say yes and no. I think, as you could read for yourself, there's a lot going on within the Disney organization right now, and I think part of that is they've gotten away from their culture. I always say I teach legacy Disney. However, my hope is that, plus my pension.
We don't want to say anything bad because they still send me checks.
My hope would be that they'd come back to that culture, which I help with companies now. To how do you form that culture? The nice part is now I get to do it more, so I could say the goods and the bads, like you said, and show what some of the errors and mistakes were.
That's great. When I was studying at Disney, I heard that he always wrote with different color pens. Is that true? Do you know? Because it was a creative process, and I like it, so I went and bought colored pens. And when I brainstorm, it's a color, and I always thought there was no science behind it. But the result of his work is fabulous.
Oh, without a doubt.
And I thought, well, if I'm going to brainstorm or write notes or even journal, maybe I could pick up colored pens. Do you have any opinion on that?
I think it's a great idea. I never heard it from a Walt perspective. I mean, Walt was always about storytelling. And he would always, there's wonderful stories about how he sold people on his movies, and how he'd talk to his writers, and how he would actually be the characters and teach the characters. So the passion of him wanting to create that happiness is something that was inherent. I didn't know about the pens, though, so maybe you taught me something.
Well, you know, having handwriting being infused in my brain for 30 years, I look at things like that. When you bring into a company, is it an individual, or is it a macro? You're doing your best. For example, the Google campuses and the Facebook campuses, it seems to be anyone in the Bay Area, they're like, oh, we want to work there. That is the absolutely coolest place to work if you live in the Bay Area, because everything's free, and they have shows, and you walk in and there's unlimited food. There's amenities, but is that enough to make people happy, just giving them free food and exercise bikes?
No. I think it's, first of all, the answer to your question, it's macro level first, and then going down to the micro level. You have to have a structure, a set of boundaries for people to know how to flow. What happens with some of those companies is they think you bring in a ping pong table and you bring in sleeping pods, that's the way to go, and that's not a bad idea. However, if you don't have a set of boundaries that people understand very clearly, then you can't empower the people to be what we would say on purpose. If they're on purpose and off task, that's okay. But companies struggle with that. Leaders struggle with that because everything's about metrics these days. And metrics aren't bad. However, they become the controlling force as opposed to the measuring force.
I've known people that are very, very high on metrics, and to the point, I hired a business coach years ago, and I tracked everything metrics. How many newsletters, how many phone calls, and all the different businesses I've owned. And at some point, I was just exhausted.
Right.
Because tracking the metrics wasn't fun. And I'm like, well, what's the point of all these metrics if I'm unhappy doing all these things? To the point, it took all the fun out of it.
Right.
And so, yes, as a manager, you need to do that. My question is about how you bring this down to the personal level.
Right.
So my sister's writing a book called Triggering Yourself Happy.
Oh, cool.
And so it's basically what she noticed, having not only my stuff, but also other books like Tony Robbins and NLP, is if she can create an environment, the music in the morning, the different kind of food that she likes, the candles. She was creating emotional triggers everywhere she went. And then she would avoid toxic people. She got rid of all her friends that were victims in wine. And she just lives a really cool life. And she's like, I need to share this.
Yeah.
What could you infuse into her philosophy that would help trigger somebody happy on a personal level if they don't have a chief happiness architect in their life?
Well, I think she's on the right track. You know, finding that structure is good and knowing that structure is good. Individually, though, people need to realize what their purpose is. If you think about life in general, if you go even back to Maslow's hierarchy, you know, in college you all studied that. You need to focus on what's your purpose, why. So it's why, what, and how. So if you simply know why you're going to be there, at Disney it's we create happiness. The what is the standards, and they're in order, by the way. And then the behaviors that go along with that build the structure. So individually now, you are looking for people, just like your wife did, as she's purged of the people of the negativity.
Sister, but
sister
wife. You know, we're Mormons. It's fine. It's the same word.
It works both ways.
We're not Mormons, and it is my sister, and she's amazing. Her name's Stephanie, by the way.
Well, Stephanie.
Just want to clear the record because we do the podcast.
Yeah.
She's guest host. We were like, oh, your girlfriend's so pretty. I'm like, this is awkward.
That is a little bit awkward.
No, she did. She figured this out, but she's still in the process of bringing these down to someone reading a book at home or someone sitting in a cafe in South Africa going, how can I apply this to me?
Yes.
And so she was, well, I can't train everybody in every, possible methodology, but you can choose a soundtrack and you can go jogging to that soundtrack that makes you happy.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I'm asking is what tools and techniques would you give your wife or your daughter to say, these are how you structure the world as chaotic as it could be, that you can trigger yourself happy?
I had a major client come to me with that same issue. And so back years ago at Disney, they used to teach RAVE, respect and value everyone. So now I have a workshop on that where I really just get back to how do we have individual conversations, right? How do I know if I'm going to like you? How do I know if I get along with you? With all this COVID and technology and this herd thinking that's going on nowadays, it's scary. People are afraid to talk to one another. So, they're afraid they're going to get canceled. They're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing.
I had no idea that was going on.
So going back to your question, it's so important to teach people again how you could have fun and engaging conversations where, if you read the news, you think it's all about political. I just wrote an article called The Middle, and I placed it on LinkedIn. And most people are in the middle. Some middle left, some middle right. And quite frankly, sometimes they flip-flop, right? But everybody thinks that everybody's on these diametric opposed areas, and it's not true. And so the key is to actually have the courage to stop and have conversations. So that's what I teach. I teach them how to identify personality types.
Right.
And then I teach them how to build a conversational tone around cultures, just asking about how they grew up, where they grew up, what food do they like. I'm an ex-chef, so what food do they like, And it's amazing what I've seen transform.
People just don't know how to have a decent conversation?
They don't, and they're scared to.
That's so odd to me, but I'm an extrovert, and it's very easy for me to engage with people.
Yeah, well, but it's also even the extroverts that are out there these last couple of years, you're afraid to offend somebody, or you're afraid to get put in these very, like I said, these group thinking type of situations, when really it's just about, do I like Bart or not like Bart, and how do I know that if I can't have a conversation about your history and who are you and what you do? I don't need to get into these third rail political arguments. I just simply get to know you.
Right. You mentioned the Disney mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was part of the. I've also done business consulting, and I find most companies don't care. They do it. They do a workshop. They write it, and the employees don't actually live it. On a personal level, one of the pieces that we always have taught in something called PRISM Life Design, PRISM, like purpose, relationship, success, and meaning, is we want them to have a personal mission statement.
Correct.
And for some people that's hard because they're like, well, my work mission statement's here, and then my love mission statement's here. And we always have found that if you can find someone's highest values, that infuses that mission statement. Have you ever helped individuals find what their mission is? Because I actually say, just make it part of your morning ritual. Read it every day for 90 days, and your life will change because you'll find the why, and then your habits will begin to align, and you'll start sorting the world through your why.
Yes.
Is that a good plan for somebody?
It's a wonderful plan. It's a wonderful plan. Understanding the why is key, whether it be personally or a business. A business is just like a living, breathing being. And you're right, businesses, more often than not, I'd say the highest percentage, upper 90%, they have mission statements, they have vision statements, but they don't have purpose statements. Right? Same thing is true for individuals. If they truly understand the why of what they're doing, and then, to your point, it can't just be like this momentarily passing thing. It has to be something that you talk about each day. You read each day. I tell them the same thing that you do. Place it on the mirror. Read it. Put it on your phone nowadays, so you read it constantly because you need to make it habit.
You need to pull it in there.
Yeah.
Is there any commentary you have on this woke culture in corporations and how they're managing something so volatile? Because they're trying not to offend people. They can't bring in certain comedians for a party. They don't want to offend somebody. Is that a real issue, and is it swaying one way or the other in corporate America?
It's a huge issue. I can't say whether it's swaying. I am seeing that they're starting to understand it more. So I think diversity was a major issue in corporations. So I don't deny that.
You don't despair that there was an issue and we need to bring diversity in.
Oh, absolutely.
For sure.
Yet diversity, again, has become a little bit more about herdthink as opposed to actual diversity. So I think what you're seeing happening now is companies are starting to understand that a little bit more, and that's why my business is doing so well, because we build a structure for it to live within. And therefore it becomes true diversity, not just of a race, creed, color, right? It becomes also a diversity of thought, of attitude. Systems. You say you're an extrovert, maybe you want some analytical people in there. Maybe you want some drivers in there. You want a good, diverse group of people in every aspect. And I think
you're
that's
not judging that diversity just on what college they went to or what color their skin is.
Exactly.
You're saying, hey, let's get some different thinkers, because all that would create a better creative output.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it should include a diverse environment when it comes to different ethnic backgrounds and creed and color. Absolutely. That's a part of diversity, but it's tended to be the only thing in this initial push, but now I see it starting to level off a little bit.
Can I take a look at your handwriting?
Oh yeah, please.
Yeah,
good luck.
You were a little bit nervous about that.
I am. I was told I could be a good doctor. Yeah. So.
Well, you actually write more legible than most doctors.
Oh, I do.
Great.
That's.
Well, you wrote cursive for me, which I appreciate, and then you wrote printing. And one of the things is you've got this cursive F, which is called fluidity of thinking. And I did 1,600 radio interviews when I was in my 20s and one of my first books. And the one trait I saw among about 80% of these radio hosts is they had this connected fluid connector, just like you. And what I then realized is I put these two together and said, oh, these people have a way with words. These people are conversationalists. These people can take a conversation here and 20 minutes later wrap that up and say, remember that thing we were talking about? Let's finish this story, right? And so that fluidity of thinking really to me is one of the most intelligent traits to have, but it means you're probably make a good writer. Have you written books?
I'm in the midst of writing a book,
I think
which is interesting.
Be great at that.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
You're a good interview, and I think you having the microphone will be great for you. You also have a very odd trait that I don't see very often. So this trait here, where the D moves up and backwards, that is sort of one of these traits of highly literary competent people that are very well read, but also esoteric, meaning that there's a lot of time that you spend thinking about not now, but in the future, what meaning, what words mean. Like, it's not just educational. So the only person I can tell you that I know for sure that has that's not from the 18th century was L. Ron Hubbard.
Oh, yeah?
Who wrote 700 books, by the way.
Yeah,
you may not like his religion,
sure, yeah.
but he was a prolific writer. And so and I always call it the L. Ron Hubbard D, because you could either A, be a prolific writer, or a cult leader. This is your destiny. It's one of those two.
Yeah, I don't think my wife will go the other side of that.
You get to choose.
Yes.
But she could be the co-cult leader.
Oh, I don't know. I think she might be the leader.
The actual cult leader. You think so?
Without a doubt.
So you're smart, you're fast thinking, you get you actually have a lot of patience, which is lovely. Everyone sat down in this chair so far has been very honest. It's great. And you have a big imagination, which is a very Disney-esque thing.
Right.
Which means you're not closed-minded, you're open-minded. That goes both physically and open-minded, and your wife is probably very happy with you for all those reasons we're not going to mention. But a lot of fun thing. And what I like about the slant is you're emotional. And the other thing that is a driver is your need for respect. And so the need for respect normally shows up as a desire to be good at your job, to win, but then also get some kind of validation.
Right.
So that is usually a very highly motivating quality, which ends up people being successful, because you want the win, you want the trophy, you want the win. The downside of that is if you don't get it, it annoys you.
Yeah.
And then you work harder. Okay. And then the other downside is every once in a while, and honestly, I don't see this and I sure don't feel this, but I'm going to tell you because that's what the books say, is sometimes you can be a little bit condescending and arrogant for people that aren't as smart as you are.
Probably true.
I would ask your wife that.
Yeah. No, I think she would answer that in the affirmative.
You may not express it because you have diplomacy, right?
Yes.
Because I have that too, and I'm just like, some people are so stupid. And in comedy, it's fine because I can get away with it.
Sure.
But you're doing serious corporate stuff, and you just can't go, would you take the... See, I just edited myself.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to offend you.
You don't offend me. It's hard to offend me.
This has been fun. Any other questions? You're just terrific. Fun, interesting, creativity. The website, Salvo Innovate. By the way, this is the worst website for creativity architect. Salvo Innovation Solutions.
InnovativeSolutions.com.
I'm just saying.
I know, right? So
Disney'sProtege.com.
Oh, yeah, that I could get sued by the Disney people.
I would like to keep my pension.com.
That's a good one. Yeah.
What I'm just saying, as creative as you are, I feel like our listeners, I need to tell them 17 times. Your name is Chuck Salvo.
Yes.
Okay, Salvo Innovations, I got that.
Yeah.
You know what? It was taken, wasn't it? Salvo Innovations was taken, so you had to go Salvo Innovation Solutions.
It was one of those things.
You were late
too,
in the
that
game,
I know.
weren't you? You got here late.
Well, the name Salvo too was I was trying to. I wasn't just using it because of my arrogance, as you noticed.
What's your name?
It's my name, but Salvo also is a burst of energy, artillery burst.
So
right?
a lot of people have already bought all those domains.
Yeah, so I wanted to use that, and I also have a lifestyles blog that I'm doing because I'm an ex-chef, so I wanted to share that. So, like you said, I have a lot of irons in the fire, but. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, that's my only criticism. Your domain is not very memorable.
Yes,
it's hard to spell.
That's why I got to do better at my search engine optimization.
But I will plug it 4 times now for you.
Oh,
because I'm that kind of guy.
SalvoInnovativesolutions.com.
See, I messed it up.
You did.
That's why I'm saying you need to get it. So I'm a bright guy. I mean, I'm a moderate, like a light bulb, but it's a bright light bulb.
Got it.
But it's bright. Chuck Salvo. Good to see you, man. Chief Happiness Architect.
You got it, sir.